This video is for March 30th. Welcome to YesToHellWith.com. Now, there will be a Liberty Dialogues video conference call tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 Pacific. And this is by request of Pauline. If you have the SOU for You package, you are invited to attend. Please send an email to info@YesToHellWith.com with the words Liberty Dialogues in the subject line, and I will send you the call credentials. Now, for today's subject, what if I told you the greatest power that you have is not to argue, not to protest, not to fight, but to simply ask the right questions? I recently spoke with a gentleman in Australia by the name of George. That hour-plus video is on YouTube and Substack. I encourage you to watch it. George runs an operation called Beyond Freedom and works with ordinary people, business owners, families, farmers, retirees, those being pressured by government agencies, councils, police, and regulators. For years, those people have been afraid. They felt trapped. They believed that when a letter arrived, when a fine appeared, when someone in a uniform came to the door, they had no choice but to comply. George taught them something powerful. Stop arguing. Start asking questions. What authority are you relying upon? What law gives you jurisdiction? What lawful obligation do you claim that I have? And can you prove it? And when people began asking those questions, everything changed. Claims were withdrawn. Fines disappeared. Police backed down. Unlawful entry stopped. Why? Because most people lived under presumption, but no longer. They presumed at one time that because someone has a badge, a title, a government logo, or a threatening letter, that authority automatically existed. But authority is not assumed. It must be proven. The Liberty Dialogues framework, which George uses, teaches 5 simple steps: authority, jurisdiction, status, standing, obligation, and only then does enforcement occur. And when you ask those questions relating to that order, and you do it calmly, professionally, and without fear, you put the burden back where it belongs, on the person making the claim. George told me that his students now stand firm, not with anger, not with violence, but with confidence. They know that when someone comes to their property, sends them a demand, or threatens enforcement, they have the right to ask, what gives you authority? What gives you jurisdiction? What obligation do you claim that I owe? And until those questions are answered, they do not need to surrender. That is the power of the Liberty Dialogues. Not because it teaches you to fight the system, but because it teaches you to think clearly, ask intelligently, and stop living under presumption. Because when you require proof, the entire dynamic changes. And perhaps for the first time in your life, you realize that you are not powerless after all. I have a vision that millions, perhaps hundreds of millions, and maybe even billions of people can and will use the Liberty Dialogues to assert their rightful sovereign power and rights. Together we can defeat the prevailing presumption of an all-oppressive government. I acknowledge George and his students. You are an inspiration. May we all do as they have done. And as always, may truth reign supreme.